Hello and welcome to this 3DO webinar preview. This is a small sample of the original presentation, but if you'd like to view the full webinar, please click the link in the description below.
Welcome everyone to our 3D Roundtable presented by 3DEO. 3DEO is the world's highest volume manufacturer of 3D printed precision metal components made with our patented metal 3D printing technology and digital manufacturing platform. Our expertise in complex geometries and design for additive manufacturing for small, less than 4 cubic inch components make 3DEO stand out from other suppliers. I'm Jim Golden, and I'll be your moderator today. I lead the commercial team here at 3DEO and have over 30 years of experience in sales, manufacturing, supply chain, and design engineering. So again, welcome to this panel. And I think it's important to start with, why this panel? Why now? Supply chain issues have been front and center for manufacturers for the past 12 to 18 months as increased demand has collided with reduced material supply, restricted manufacturing capacity, labor shortages, and transportation issues, both cost and timing. The result has caused most enterprises to reevaluate their supply chains, including their sourcing strategies, inventory management policies, and even merger and acquisition plans. At 3DEO, we help our customers avoid these issues through frequent deliveries from our US-based factory with no minimum order quantities. With our unique capabilities, we have enabled our customers to launch products faster, eliminate backlog, and bring more technically advanced products to life. Our objective today is to bring together 4 thought leaders with manufacturing and supply chain expertise to discuss the importance of an efficient supply chain operation, the links between the past year's global supply chain crisis and how onshoring can help alleviate backlog and resolve supply chain constraints, 3D printing's role in unlocking revenue for companies affected by supply chain, and list key optimization tips to incorporate 3D printing and onshoring into the supply chain. So as we get started, let me give a brief introduction to today's panelists. And I'll give a brief intro, but when we get to your first questions, panelists, please feel free to give additional details of your background and experience. Dayton Horvath is with us today. He's the Director of Emerging Technology for the Association for Manufacturing Technology. Dayton is a director at the AMT, where he leads market research, consulting, and data product development in new technologies. Philip Coles is with the Decision and Technology Analytics Department at Lehigh University. Quick shout out to Lehigh, it's also my alma mater. Before joining Lehigh, Professor Coles taught various business courses at the Penn State University, Syracuse University, Alvernia University, and Cornell University Summer College. And in addition, he has over 30 years of industry experience. We also have with us Mark Christensen. He is the Senior Vice President of Supply Chain for Christensen Arms. And during the course of his career, Mark has gained extensive global purchasing experience in a multitude of supply chain roles within the nutritional products, consumer goods, and defense industries. We also have with us Matt Petros, co-founder and CEO of 3DEO. And during the course of his doctoral studies, Matt co-invented and designed numerous metal additive manufacturing binder jetting processes. He worked hand in hand with various Fortune 500 companies to help develop high-impact 3D printing solutions, and with this unique insight, founded 3DEO. So let's jump right in. So I think we can all agree the supply chain was pretty messy last year. Mark, you've had a lot of experience over your career in a number of industries focusing on supply chain. What's your take on the global supply chain today?
No, that's a great question, Jim. When I think about my experience in multiple industries, I spent a fair amount of time in the nutritional industry. And then as we went to some consumer goods companies, Blendtec that made residential blenders, as well as Mighty Light that made tables and chairs, and living through Section 232 and the impacts that the tariffs had on the supply chain. And then now with the pandemic, I know that the current global supply chain, when I think about what are the challenges, it's really disruption, stability, long lead times. The demand and supply and demand is still raising havoc across the board. You still see stockouts on the shelves. When I think back, even in some of the industries I've been in, February of last year with the deep freeze down in Houston just caused every company to sit back and think that there's so much things that can raise havoc. Even when I think about, the things going on in Europe and Taiwan and how those impact. We may not buy from them directly, but we have so many things that can impact our supply chains, and really understanding how do we respond to those and how do we become resilient is really where we need to focus on this year.
Got it. Thank you. And Phil, you also have an interesting perspective, having worked in supply chain and now teaching it. What's your view on what's happening?
My concern is that we're going to unlearn a lot of the lessons that we learned over several decades. So we've had a lot of shortages that have happened, and I came out of the produce industry, so there was produce that was being plowed underneath the ground. There was milk that was being dumped when people needed milk, and the issue wasn't lack of inventory. The problem was the wrong inventory. So we're getting shortages, and a lot of people are jumping up and down and saying, "Oh, it's just in time that got us in trouble." And my concern is that we're going to throw out the proverbial baby with the proverbial bathwater. We made so many strides over the last several decades, and it's even affected us macroeconomically. Have improved the economy overall. And we go back to some of the mistakes that we were doing before with too much inventory. So we have what is going on for too long, which should be a temporary problem. But we basically had a pandemic that we didn't allow people to go to work, right? So a few things that you referred to. So we couldn't make anything. And then the government started passing out money so you could buy stuff. So we had the classic increased demand with a reduced supply. So again, my concern is that we'll unlearn the things that we learned in just in time, and we'll go back to these supply chains that aren't responsive, and will actually make the shortages worse.
Interesting. Thank you. This is a question for both of you now, Phil and Mark. To account for that, what amount of safety stock is correct? And how do you incorporate, what's the right way to incorporate demand variability and supply lead time to define appropriate inventory? And maybe we'll start with you, Mark.
You bet. So when I think about that, and just about, as I've coached buyers on how to approach those shortages and those things, right out of the way, you can see it with consumers. They want to have a little bit of the hoarding concept so they can increase the story. Let's buy a whole bunch so we don't run out. And the reality is that just compounds the situation. So my mind would be focusing on safety stock. You need to look at your past consumption, what you think their future looks like, and then really dial it in on small, frequent deliveries. And because when you think about how do we get consistent, this up and down that we see, this little bit of a whipsaw effect, to be able to buy inventory and just store a lot of it and then come in, down low and then bring it in again because of lead times, is really not beneficial to the corporation. It's really taking that. I'm a lean practitioner, and I know Phil has a lot of history in that as well, but I know smaller lot sizes more frequently dials right into what we think from the lean perspective. Phil, go ahead and share your thoughts.
Yeah, and again, I always like to quote Thomas Sowell. He says there's no right answers. There's only, now I'm stuck on a word, sorry. There's only compromises, right? So this depends on what industry you're in and where you're located. There's different answers for different things. So there's times that it's better to outsource or to offshore. There's times that it's better to have your lead time shorter, but in general, your supplier's closer, so your lead times are shorter. But in general, that second one is the better one. But there's a trade-off that you're getting something from far away because it was really cheap, or it's better quality, or it's not available, or something like that. So you need to keep that in mind. And then the second thing is you need to divide it up. So one of the reasons that so many people are thinking, well, it's just in time stuff. We willy-nilly just lowered the inventory because we're greedy and we didn't want to pay to have the inventory in stock. So that is true when you're talking about state of the art and just what your supply chain is. As far as you're talking about supplies, you're talking about finished product. but we can calculate that. You should be in the normal course of business, seeing what your normal variation is. Like, so for example, right, we just had this, that they have the bridge blocked in Canada. Well, if there's any kind of choke point like that, where you're getting supplies through, you should be aware of that. You should know how often that happens, and you should know what the rerouting is, how long you'd have to wait for it, and from that you can calculate what your safety stock is.
Thank you for watching this webinar preview from 3DO. To view the full webinar, please click the link in the description below. If you'd like to learn more about 3DO, please visit our website at www.3deo.co.